Good afternoon, everyone. We're here with the award winners from the Clearview Public Library, Jennifer LaChapelle, the CEO of Clearview, and Luc Boulien of Lebel and Boulien. And this is one of our award-winning projects under the renovation and refurbishment category this year, which is the 2021 theme. So we have a series of 3 questions we will ask Luc and Jennifer. And Luc has provided a PowerPoint slideshow, which will highlight the building, the process, and the project. So we'll jump right in with the first question. Oh, and by the way, I have to say, beautiful building. Jury loved it. Very, very well done. So the first question, what was the intent of the building project? And what do you think was outstanding or unique about your project?
Great question. And thank you for having me. We're very excited about the award and excited to be here to talk about this amazing building. I think to jump into kind of the unique aspects of this building, I think one of the main things is that it's a library connected to a community center and an arena. So the continuation of that community building was a key part of this, and how to create a communal space between the 2 buildings was a key part. So one of the things that we did for this building was to start out looking at the solar orientation of the site and what was around this amazing site. So we looked at the orientation of the sun and where this building was going to go. And if I, on the PowerPoint presentation, I'll just move forward to some slides to show the orientation of the building at the end of the community center. The idea was that we rotated the building to be on axis with the sun, which is different than the axis of the building, of the arena. And the idea was to get the best type of light for a library from all directions. And at the same time, angling out created this middle zone between the buildings that created this shared community space. So I think for us, the key thing for this library was natural light and how to address it in a library. So what we did was, by rotating it to face north, the large window of the main circulation space faces the north landscape, which is fields and a forest. And it brings in a lot of natural light. You could imagine the ambient sort of art studio type of light, which is really beautiful. And that could be seen at this image here, where this is from the outside. So all that light kind of bleeds in. But from the south, what we did is, rather than have harsh south light on directly on you in the library, we created these huge light scoops across the top of the building. And those are seen in the architectural, in all the views. You see them across the top here. These are you see them on these big light monitors across the top. And what those do is they go up and they face south, and they scoop the south light into the building, and it draws all that south light right into the middle of the space. So you could really see in this image how the south light is actually coming from behind you in these scoops and lighting the space without being too harsh at the same time or requiring blinds. Yet you look to the north to this beautiful window that allows the ambient light. So we tried to use the solar orientation as much as possible to create these unique features. And then along the east side of the branch, that faces a public park, it gets beautiful morning sun. So on that side, we put the long metal roof folds down, and you have a series of east windows. And the program that we placed there was key to having east views. So the kids area is right in front of an east window. The morning newspaper coffee station for the public is right in front of the east window. So anything where you could imagine a lot of the morning activity happens, the circulation desk has a great view at the east, gets this beautiful east sun. And so as the sun moves around the building, you could imagine the spaces in the building work in a different way. So the main entry at the front, which is the big folded, you can see in this view, like the large sort of folded entry, has a really deep canopy so that the south light is controlled entering the lobby, yet the lobby to the building is still quite beautiful. And then from the west, you could see at the upper left-hand corner of this image, the roof is folded again, and there's a series of clerestory windows up top that allow west light in. So as the sun gets around to the west in the evening, you get that light into the building, which is in areas such as like the teen area, the meeting rooms, which can be used off hours from the library as well. So some of the public areas get this beautiful west light when that end of the building gets used more towards the end of the day. So from a unique kind of way we looked at it, and it's also the most sustainable way to deal with light too. So we tried to design the library to take advantage of all these different solar orientations. I think the other aspect of it, as you can see in some of the folded metal roofs, is we looked at the actual typology. You're adding a library to the side of a large hockey arena, which is a metal clad building that has a bit of a barn metal roof fold system to it, which is its own type of typology of a building on its own right. So we kind of took that metal barn metal, like the walls are metal and the roof's metal. We took that fold and we just kind of broke that fold to create the roof that we have, like you see in this image. So you could imagine this barn roof kind of getting folded to create these angles of the new building and to get that sun down through the space. So I think those are probably the two kind of most unique aspects of this building.
Jennifer, anything to add?
Well, I think for me, one of the unique aspects of the building is the fact that it is attached to the community center. The township of Clearview is a beautiful township. It's primarily rural. It's one of the largest geographically in the county of Simcoe, but the population is not that high. And as it's rural, the tax base is somewhat lower than a commercial or industrial municipality would be, and therefore you have limited money to draw on to build something, and so for us to be able to partner with the Parks, Culture and Recreation Department to utilize their community center, which during the day is usually underused for our programming, just made financial sense. And the way that it was executed by our architects was fantastic. The other thing Luke has gone on about the skylights or whatever term Luke uses for this. Traditionally, I hate skylights. Our old Stainer Branch had one that we had to have removed, but these work so effectively. There is no glare. We've not noticed any increase in the heat in the building, but it does bring some added natural light, and I love them.
Excellent. All right, second question. What were some of the biggest challenges faced during this project, and how were they resolved? So what lessons were learned?
Can I go first?
Please.
Don't build during a pandemic. I think it screwed everything up at no one's fault whatsoever. It just, we had to close. Even the staff had to get out of the building for a prolonged period of time. And the whole site shut down for a bit. And as soon as you shut a site down, it's harder to get it up and running again. So that would be my big takeaway from this. As a librarian, I would say that before you get in, this is my second build project, but it's much bigger than my first. You really probably need to talk to your engineers more, because HVAC and the alarm system were really complex, and we're still learning how to use them effectively. And I think maybe if I had concentrated more on that than simply how the library as a library would function. So it's not just, how to make the library function as a public space, but also how to build one. And obviously I need to educate myself more in that regard.
Yeah, I agree, Jennifer. The time of the build to finish during COVID was very complex, and it adds to your comment of not being able to properly train the systems in the building and use the building, sort of starting up slow and learning how it works. Like, there wasn't really that much opportunity for that. So that certainly made the end of this build complicated. I think adding a building onto the side of an existing building is probably what was most challenging for us, because it's not just physically the structural connection, which was challenging, but we had to create a firewall between the buildings to allow us to connect the way we wanted. But at the same time, we're connecting to a big public hall, and the public hall used for weddings and events opens into our shared community hallway, lobby and atrium space of the library. So, how to create lots of flow and openness and connectiveness while at the same time creating a 2-hour fire separation wall was extremely challenging. And these walls have expansion gaps between them, and you actually, if you go on site, you could see even on the floor as you walk into the hall. So I think from a technical standpoint, You could see that where that connection is right here. I think that was probably the most challenging on this job from a fire safety and building science point of view. Other than that, I think, choosing, working with the library was really great. And I think one of the challenges of all the libraries we design now is how much libraries change and how much the needs of the users change and how much technology is in a library now, and the knowledge that that technology changes in a year from now. So you have to allow for that flexibility and allow for your, to think ahead that in a year from now, Jennifer is not going to say, oh, we're so stuck with this. They could actually adapt and change and move the furniture, move some of the shelving, add some seating, because we've built in that ability within the data and power on the floor and the data up in the ceiling. So it's an open, if I move to one of the interior views, it's a very organized and open interior ceiling, and it has a lot of acoustic elements to it. But you could see the acoustic panels coming down, but by being open like this, we run all the data and all the different Wi-Fi systems and everything are in the open area. So there are a lot of those items are really easy to change for flexibility. And I think building in flexibility is always a challenge on these projects, but we try to address that knowing that stuff will change. So we've tried to adjust that in the design of this.
Okay. And I think you've covered the first part of the last question. What would be your advice for a library taking a similar project? So I'll ask the second part. What has been the reaction of your community to this project?
The reaction has primarily been positive. And the reason I'm not saying incredibly positive is because we haven't been able to let them in for very long. We've had periods where we couldn't have people in, and we're about to open on July 7th. And I expect more people to come in, but even when we were open, we had capacity limits and people were nervous about coming into public spaces. So we haven't done our grand opening, which will be fantastic when we get around to scheduling it. But that's been the main reason that I'm not jumping up and down. It will happen. I will jump up and down. It's fantastic. And we have anyone who's come in and looked at it has been very positive in their response. And we've had people actually standing and staring into the windows before we open back to the public.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that. It's such a beautiful pastoral setting and the use of glass is amazing. It really is for a small build. It's quite an outstanding project and it's different than things we've seen in the past, which I really like.
Well, our community is growing very rapidly. We're right on the border of Wasaga Beach and Collingwood. And so there's lots of development happening and people are coming, in the olden times, like when I was young, people in communities such as Creemore and Stayner, a lot of it was retired agricultural industry, but it's not now. And we see a lot of people who are commuting to bigger centers, Collingwood, Barrie, some even into Toronto. So the feel of the community is changing a little bit. I mean, people are coming because it is a wonderful rural atmosphere, but we also wanted, as Lucas said, we've got adaptability in terms of technology to move forward as times change. And I think that's key, that you really do need that flexibility, and it is there in this building.
Excellent. Luke, any final words?
Yeah, I think what we've heard from the community and from the librarians and from the builders and even photographers and even people who've come in to install AV and stuff afterwards, like what we've heard a lot is like the original, when you show people renderings or a 3D model, like often the first question was, oh, look at these angles, like why are all the angles happening? And I think the best reaction has been like when people walk into the library, they immediately get it. Like you immediately understand why that was folding that way, why those little triangle skylight clerestories up top open up like that. Like when you're in the space and you walk in, everyone just says, oh, I totally get it. It's amazing. You've tilted towards the sun and it actually works. So I think that's been like my favorite part about the build is that, when someone walks in and their reaction is like, oh, the architecture completely matches the sort of feel as you go in and it totally works. So that's been my favorite part for sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye now.